It's 1:53 a.m. on Thursday, November 6, 2025. In a safe house on the outskirts of College Park, Georgia, a cell phone vibrates on a mahogany desk. The air conditioning hums at 68 degrees, fighting against the unseasonable warmth outside. Miguel Angel Reyes, known in MS-13 circles as El Fantasma, picks up the phone. The message is 3 words: move everything now. He doesn't hesitate. Within 90 seconds, he's made 14 calls. Within 5 minutes, 45 vehicles across Metro Atlanta are receiving identical instructions. Within 20 minutes, the largest convoy of armored gang vehicles in Georgia history is rolling toward a single destination in southwest Atlanta. Miguel believes he's executing an emergency extraction to protect MS-13's southeast operations from a rival cartel strike. He has no idea he's been manipulated for 8 months. He has no idea that every turn his convoy makes has been planned by federal agents. And he absolutely has no idea that the warehouse he's heading toward isn't a safe haven. It's a trap designed by the DEA, equipped with surveillance systems, tactical units, and enough federal firepower to end MS-13's regional empire in a single night. What Miguel doesn't know, what none of the 127 MS-13 members involved in this operation know, is that Special Agent Marcus Whitfield has been inside their organization for 243 days. Not physically, psychologically. Through compromised associates, planted intelligence, and the most sophisticated undercover operation the DEA's Atlanta field office has ever conducted, Whitfield has been steering MS-13 toward this exact moment. The text message that triggered the convoy? It came from a phone Miguel believes belongs to his most trusted lieutenant. It actually belongs to the FBI. This is how empires fall in America. Not through dramatic shootouts in the streets, not through last stands and final battles. They fall through patience, precision, and the quiet application of investigative power. Tonight, 79 federal agents are about to prove that in the United States of America, even military-grade armor can't protect you from accountants with badges. Protagonist, Deep Dive. Marcus Whitfield was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1979. His father was a Detroit Police Department homicide detective who died in the line of duty when Marcus was 14. His mother worked as a trauma nurse at Detroit Receiving Hospital, bringing home stories that gave Marcus an early education in the cost of violence. He joined the DEA at 25, fresh out of the University of Michigan, with a degree in criminal justice and a burning need to understand the machinery of organized crime. 20 years later, Marcus is the special agent in charge of the DEA's Atlanta field office. At 6'2" with graying temples and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, he looks like every other federal agent in a dark suit. But his mind works differently. Where most agents see crimes, Marcus sees patterns. Where others see individual drug dealers and enforcers, he sees organizational structures vulnerable to psychological warfare. His colleagues call him the architect because he doesn't just build cases. He builds scenarios that force criminal organizations to destroy themselves. His methods are controversial. Traditional DEA operations focus on arrests, seizures, and prosecutions. Marcus focuses on manipulation. In 2018, he orchestrated the collapse of a cartel distribution network in Tennessee by planting false intelligence that convinced 3 rival factions they were being betrayed by each other. The resulting internal conflict destroyed the organization without the DEA firing a single shot. In 2021, he dismantled a methamphetamine operation in South Carolina by feeding the leadership doctored financial records that made them believe their accountant was stealing. They killed their own money man, the only person who actually knew where the assets were hidden, and the organization imploded within weeks. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit has studied his techniques. Academic journals have published papers on his approach, and more than a few defense attorneys have accused him of entrapment, psychological manipulation, and operating outside constitutional boundaries. Every investigation has cleared him. Marcus doesn't break laws, he breaks minds. His personal life reflects his professional intensity. Divorced twice. No children. His first wife, Catherine, left after 3 years because, as she put it in the divorce papers, living with Marcus is like living with a chess computer that thinks everyone is a potential opponent. His second marriage lasted 18 months. He lives alone in a modest townhouse in Buckhead, drives a 7-year-old Honda Accord, and spends most evenings reviewing case files while listening to Miles Davis. His salary is $155,000 annually. He's turned down 3 promotions that would have moved him to Washington because he prefers fieldwork. But Atlanta isn't just another assignment. It's personal. MS-13's southeast expansion has claimed 73 lives in Georgia since 2022. 12 were civilians caught in crossfire. 1 was a 15-year-old honor student in Decatur who witnessed a gang execution and was murdered in her own bedroom 3 days later. Marcus attended that funeral. He sat in the back row and listened to her mother's eulogy. That's when Operation Nightfall began taking shape in his mind. The operation has consumed him for 8 months. He's tracked financial transactions through 17 shell companies. He's mapped MS-13's entire Southeast network, 47 active members, 18 safe houses, 11 legitimate businesses used for laundering, and a fleet of 45 armored vehicles worth an estimated $4.7 million. But numbers don't drive Marcus. The 15-year-old drives him. Her name was Alicia Martinez. She wanted to be a doctor. Tonight at 1:53 a.m., when that text message goes out to Miguel Reyes, Marcus is sitting in a surveillance van 2 miles from the Target warehouse. He's drinking cold coffee from a thermos. He hasn't slept more than 4 hours a night in 3 weeks. His hands are steady. His mind is focused. And he's about to execute the most complex takedown of his career. "All units, this is Alpha 1, he says into his radio. His voice is calm, almost conversational. "The package is moving. Estimated arrival time, 2:23 a.m. Remember, no shots unless absolutely necessary. We want this clean." 79 federal agents across 6 locations confirm receipt. Marcus allows himself a brief moment of satisfaction. 8 months of planning. 243 days of psychological warfare. Thousands of hours of surveillance, financial analysis, and strategic manipulation. It's all coming together. In 90 minutes, MS-13 Southeast operations will cease to exist. What Marcus doesn't know, what no one in the DEA knows yet, is that Miguel Reyes has been having doubts. Small things, inconsistencies in timing, messages that arrive too conveniently. And 20 minutes ago, Miguel made a phone call that wasn't on any federal radar. He called his cousin in Los Angeles, a veteran MS-13 shot caller with 30 years of experience. The cousin said 4 words that are now echoing in Miguel's mind as his convoy rolls through Atlanta's industrial district. Something feels very wrong. The gathering storm. At 2:09 a.m., Robert Chen watches security footage from his office at Chen Logistics, a trucking company that operates out of a warehouse complex in southwest Atlanta. He's 63, a retired Army logistics officer who spent 27 years managing supply chains for military operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. He bought this business with his pension and savings, and for the past 11 years, he's run a clean operation. 23 trucks, 15 employees, contracts with legitimate companies. 3 months ago, a company called Apex Security Consulting approached him about leasing warehouse space. They said they needed secure storage for armored vehicles used in private security operations. The paperwork looked legitimate. The payment was generous, $35,000 per month, always on time, always by wire transfer. Robert did his due diligence. Apex Security Consulting had a Georgia business license, a professional website, and references from 2 other logistics companies. He signed a 6-month lease. Now, watching his security monitors, Robert realizes he's made a catastrophic mistake. The warehouse space he rented to Apex isn't empty. It's filled with federal agents, and 45 vehicles are converging on his property. His phone rings. The caller ID shows Atlanta FBI Field Office. "Mr. Chen, this is Special Agent Sarah Morrison with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I need you to remain calm and listen carefully. Your warehouse is currently the center of an active federal operation. We've been monitoring the space you leased to Apex Security Consulting for the past 93 days. That company is a front for MS-13 operations. You are not under investigation. You are not in danger. But I need you to stay in your office, lock your doors, and do not attempt to leave the building, do you understand?" Robert's mouth goes dry. MS-13? The gang? I rented space to a gang? You rented space to what you believed was a legitimate company. We've reviewed your background check procedures. You did everything right. They used sophisticated false documentation. You're a victim here, Mr. Chen. But right now, I need you to trust me and stay where you are. This operation is happening with or without your cooperation, but it's safer for everyone if you remain in your office. Can you do that? Robert looks at his security monitors. He counts at least 20 federal agents in tactical gear. I don't think I have much choice. You don't. But I appreciate your cooperation. Someone will come speak with you after this is over. Stay safe. The line goes dead. Robert sits back in his chair and realizes his hands are shaking. 27 years in the Army, including 2 tours in Baghdad during the surge. And he's never felt this kind of fear. In combat, you know who the enemy is. Now, he's sitting in his own warehouse watching a federal operation unfold, and wondering if his business will survive the night. 2 miles away, Miguel Reyes is making a decision. His convoy is 10 minutes from the warehouse. His cousin's warning is still fresh in his mind. Something feels wrong. He picks up his phone and calls the number he was given for the warehouse contact, supposedly an MS-13 associate who's been monitoring the location. The number rings 4 times, then 5, then 6. No answer. Miguel's stomach tightens. He signals the lead vehicle to slow down. The convoy's speed drops from 45 miles per hour to 30. He calls another number, one of his lieutenants in the 3rd vehicle. Jaime, something's wrong. The warehouse contact isn't answering. Maybe he's asleep, Jefe. It's 2 in the morning. He knew we were coming. He should be awake. Miguel thinks for a moment. Change of plans. First 3 vehicles proceed to warehouse. Everyone else holds position half a mile out. We verify everything is clear before bringing in the full convoy. Understood. This decision, this moment of intuition, saves Miguel's life and complicates everything Marcus Whitfield has planned. In the surveillance van, Marcus watches his monitors as the convoy's GPS signals shift. The vehicles are slowing down. Then 3 signals continue forward while the rest stop. Marcus leans forward. What are they doing? One of his analysts, a sharp-eyed woman named Jennifer Park, who's been tracking MS-13's communication patterns for 6 months, speaks up. They're being cautious. Someone's suspicious. Marcus's mind races through scenarios. If only 3 vehicles arrive, they can still execute the operation, but they lose the opportunity to neutralize the entire convoy at once. If Miguel suspects a trap and the vehicles scatter, they're looking at individual pursuits across Metro Atlanta. Dangerous, unpredictable, and likely to result in civilian casualties. Options, Marcus says. Jennifer doesn't hesitate. Let the 3 vehicles arrive. Execute the takedown as planned. Use them as leverage to draw in the rest. And if the others run, we have helicopter support on standby. We pursue. But I don't think they'll run. MS-13's organizational structure is hierarchical. If we capture their leadership in those first 3 vehicles, the rest will likely surrender rather than face retaliation from the larger organization for abandoning their commanders. Marcus nods slowly. It's sound analysis, but sound analysis doesn't always account for human unpredictability. All units stand by. Situation developing. Maintain radio silence unless absolutely necessary. At 2:17 a.m., 3 armored SUVs roll into the warehouse complex. The lead vehicle is a modified Chevy Suburban with military-grade armor plating and bulletproof glass. Miguel sits in the passenger seat, his hand resting on a Sig Sauer P320 in his lap. His driver, a 26-year-old enforcer named Carlos, keeps both hands on the wheel. The second and third vehicles follow at 30-foot intervals. The warehouse entrance is open. Orange sodium lights illuminate the loading area. Everything looks normal. Miguel's instincts scream otherwise. "Stop here," he says. Carlos brakes. The 3 vehicles sit idling in the loading area. Miguel scans the space. He sees pallets, forklifts, shipping containers. Nothing obviously wrong, but nothing obviously right either. Where's the contact who's supposed to be monitoring this location? Where are the other MS-13 members who should be providing security? Carlos, back us out. Slowly. Before Carlos can shift into reverse, the world explodes with light and sound. Floodlights ignite from every direction. The warehouse, which moments ago appeared dark and empty, erupts with activity. Federal agents emerge from behind containers, from inside semi-truck trailers, from elevated positions on catwalks. Amplified voices boom through the space. "Federal agents, driver, turn off your engine. Passengers, show your hands. This building is surrounded. You cannot escape. Comply now. Miguel's heart hammers. His first instinct is to tell Carlos to ram through the perimeter. His second instinct, the one that's kept him alive for 15 years in MS-13, is to assess the tactical situation. He counts at least 30 agents he can see. There are probably 50 he can't. Every one of them has a rifle trained on the 3 vehicles. The warehouse entrance behind them is blocked by 2 armored federal vehicles that weren't there 30 seconds ago. They've been outmaneuvered, completely. Carlos looks at Miguel. What do we do? Miguel thinks of his cousin's warning. Something feels wrong. His cousin was right. This entire thing, the emergency message, the urgent convoy, the warehouse, it was all a setup. Every decision he's made for the past 8 hours has been manipulated. The realization is crushing. He's not just trapped physically, he's been trapped psychologically for months. We comply, Miguel says quietly. Turn off the engine. The trigger event. Carlos turns off the engine. The silence that follows is absolute except for the idling engines of the other 2 vehicles. Federal agents maintain their positions, weapons trained, voices continuing to boom instructions. Miguel raises his hands slowly, making sure they're visible through the windshield. He nods to Carlos to do the same. All passengers, exit vehicles with hands raised. Driver first, then passengers. Move slowly. Any sudden movement will be considered hostile. The doors of all 3 vehicles open. Miguel steps out with his hands above his head. The November air is warmer than the air-conditioned interior. He can feel at least a dozen red laser dots dancing across his chest, targeting systems from federal rifles. More agents emerge from positions he couldn't see before. The level of planning and preparation is staggering. This isn't a raid. It's a surgical operation. Miguel and his men are ordered to their knees. Federal agents approach with zip ties, securing hands behind backs with practiced efficiency. Miguel watches as they work, cataloging every detail. These aren't just DEA agents. He sees FBI patches, ATF insignia, Georgia Bureau of Investigation markings. This is a multi-agency operation. The level of resources dedicated to this single takedown is unprecedented in his experience. As an agent secures Miguel's hands, a man in a dark suit approaches. He's tall, gray at the temples, looks like he hasn't slept in days. But his eyes are sharp, very sharp. This is the man who orchestrated everything. Miguel knows it instinctively. Miguel Angel Reyes, the man says. His voice is calm, almost conversational. I'm Special Agent Marcus Whitfield with the Drug Enforcement Administration. You've been under investigation for the past 8 months. Everything you've done, every decision you've made has been monitored, documented, and in many cases influenced by this agency. The emergency message you received tonight? We sent it. The intelligence about rival cartels? We planted it. The warehouse you thought was a safe location? We've controlled it for 93 days. You're under arrest for racketeering, drug trafficking, weapons violations, and conspiracy to commit murder. Do you understand these charges? Miguel stares at Marcus. 8 months. Every decision influenced. The scope of the manipulation is almost admirable in its complexity. Where's Antonio? Miguel asks, referring to the warehouse contact, who was supposed to be monitoring the location. Antonio Ruiz has been in federal custody since March 17th, Marcus says. He's been cooperating with our investigation. Every communication you received from his phone was actually from us. He's currently in witness protection, preparing to testify against MS-13's entire Southeast leadership structure. Miguel closes his eyes. Antonio was one of his most trusted associates. 15 years together. Betrayed, or broken. It doesn't matter which. The result is the same. There are 42 more vehicles in your convoy, Marcus continues. They're currently waiting half a mile from this location. Here's what's going to happen next. You're going to call your lieutenant and tell him to bring the rest of the convoy here. Tell him everything is fine. Tell him the emergency was a false alarm, but we need to consolidate anyway. If you do this, I guarantee the safety of every person in those vehicles. No one gets hurt. If you refuse, we pursue. Helicopter support is already airborne. Pursuit at high speed through residential areas will likely result in civilian casualties. Those casualties will be on your conscience. What's it going to be? Miguel looks at the federal agents surrounding him, 70, maybe 80 of them. This operation has been planned down to the smallest detail. If the rest of the convoy runs, people will die. Maybe his people, maybe civilians, probably both. He's been outmaneuvered, completely. Might as well admit it. Give me the phone, Miguel says. Before we continue, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city and state in the comments. This story happened in Atlanta, but it could have been anywhere in America. Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, Houston. MS-13 operates in 42 states. I want to know where this channel reaches, and I want to hear from you throughout this story. AC2. The confrontation. The decision point. Miguel makes the call at 2:31 a.m. His hands are zip-tied, so a federal agent holds the phone to his ear. The line rings twice before Jaime answers. Jefe, what's happening? We heard something on the radio frequencies. Jaime, listen carefully. Everything is fine. The emergency was a false alarm. We had bad intelligence about rival activity, but the warehouse is secure. I need you to bring the rest of the convoy here. We're consolidating everything anyway since we're already mobilized. Better to have everything in one location while we reassess. There's a pause. Miguel can hear Jaime thinking. You sure, Jefe? Something feels off. Miguel glances at Marcus, who's watching him with those sharp, calculating eyes. I'm sure. We've already unloaded the first 3 vehicles. The space is perfect. Climate-controlled, multiple entry points, good security. Bring everyone in. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, okay, Jefe, we're moving now. Be there in 5 minutes. The line goes dead. Marcus nods to the agent holding the phone. Excellent work, Mr. Reyes. You might have just saved lives. Miguel doesn't respond. He's thinking about what happens next. MS-13 doesn't forgive weakness. If he survives federal custody, he'll still face his own organization's justice. Cooperating with federal agents, even under duress, is considered betrayal. The irony is bitter. He's been manipulated into destroying his own operation, and now he'll face consequences from both sides. Marcus issues commands into his radio. All units, the rest of the package is inbound. ETA 5 minutes. Remember, we want this clean. Minimal force. These vehicles are armored, but they're not military grade. Flashbangs only if necessary. Let's show them they're completely surrounded before they can even think about resistance. Federal agents reposition. Miguel watches them work with professional admiration. Every movement is coordinated. Every position is calculated for maximum tactical advantage. This isn't the first time Marcus Whitfield has executed an operation like this. Maybe not at this scale, but the principles are the same. Overwhelming force, psychological dominance, and the certainty of capture. At 2:36 a.m., the first of the remaining 42 vehicles enters the warehouse complex, then another, then 10 more. The convoy files in with the orderly precision of a military operation. Miguel watches vehicle after vehicle arrive. Chevy Suburbans, Ford Expeditions, modified cargo vans, even 2 armored Mercedes SUVs that cost $200,000 each. Years of investment, millions of dollars in assets. The entire mobile infrastructure of MS-13's Southeast operations, all of it rolling into a federal trap. When the 37th vehicle enters, Jaime's voice crackles over the radio frequency MS-13 uses for internal communication. Jefe, where are you? I don't see you. Before Miguel can be forced to respond again, Marcus makes a decision. Execute now. All units go. The warehouse explodes with light and sound for the second time. Floodlights ignite. Federal agents emerge from concealment. Amplified voices boom instructions. But this time, there's no negotiation period. This time, agents are positioned at every vehicle simultaneously. Doors are yanked open. Occupants are pulled out with swift efficiency. Within 90 seconds, 127 MS-13 members are on their knees with hands zip-tied behind their backs. The entire takedown happens without a single shot fired. No one resists. The display of federal force is so overwhelming, so complete, that resistance seems not just futile but absurd. Miguel watches it unfold with a strange sense of detachment. 8 months of manipulation. 243 days of psychological warfare. It all ends in 90 seconds. Marcus walks through the rows of kneeling MS-13 members, hands clasped behind his back. He looks like a general inspecting conquered troops. Gentlemen, you're under arrest. You'll be processed, transported to federal detention, and charged with numerous violations of federal law. Some of you will receive plea offers. Some of you won't. That depends on your level of cooperation and the severity of your individual crimes. But understand this. As of 2:38 a.m. on Thursday, November 6, 2025, MS-13's Southeast operations are finished. Your leadership is in custody. Your assets are seized. Your network is compromised. It's over. He pauses in front of Miguel. Mr. Reyes, you made a smart decision tonight. You saved lives, including your own people's lives. That will be noted in your file, but it won't erase your crimes. You're looking at 20 years minimum. If you want to reduce that sentence, you'll cooperate fully with our investigation. Think about it. Miguel doesn't respond. He's thinking about Alicia Martinez, the 15-year-old honor student who witnessed a gang execution and was murdered in her bedroom. He didn't order that hit. He didn't even know about it until after it happened. But he was part of the organization that did it. He took money from the same pool of resources that paid for that murder. The moral distance between direct guilt and organizational guilt suddenly seems very small. The escalation. The processing begins immediately. Federal agents photograph each vehicle, documenting armor modifications, hidden compartments, and contraband. They find 17 firearms, $327,000 in cash, 2 kilograms of cocaine, and enough documentation to map MS-13's entire Southeast distribution network. Each MS-13 member is photographed, fingerprinted, and placed in separate holding areas to prevent coordination or communication. Robert Chen emerges from his office at 3:15 a.m., escorted by FBI agents. He looks shell-shocked. Marcus approaches him, extending a hand. Mr. Chen, I'm Special Agent Marcus Whitfield. I apologize for the disruption to your business. You're not under investigation. You're a victim of fraud. We'll need to interview you extensively over the next few days, but you're free to go home tonight if you prefer. Robert shakes Marcus's hand numbly. My warehouse. Did anything get damaged? Some minor property damage. Bullet holes in a few containers. Don't worry, there are bullet holes from pre-positioning. We'll ensure you're fully compensated. Your business will be clear to resume operations within 72 hours. I served in the Army for 27 years, Robert says quietly. Logistics, Iraq, Afghanistan. I never thought I'd have a gang operation running out of my own warehouse. You didn't know. They used sophisticated false documentation. We've reviewed your due diligence. It was thorough. Sometimes criminals are just better at deception than honest people are at detection. That's not your fault. Robert nods, but Marcus can see he doesn't fully believe it. The psychological weight of unknowingly facilitating criminal activity will haunt him. Marcus has seen it before. Good people who made innocent mistakes, whose businesses or properties were exploited by criminals, carry guilt that isn't theirs to carry. But they carry it anyway. At 3:47 a.m., as the last MS-13 member is loaded into a federal transport van, Marcus receives a call from FBI Assistant Director Catherine Morrison in Washington. Marcus, we're watching the whole thing on satellite feed. Congratulations. This is the largest MS-13 takedown in regional history. How many arrests? 127 individuals. 45 vehicles seized. Estimated street value of assets, $4.7 million. More importantly, we've dismantled their entire Southeast command structure. Every cell leader, every lieutenant, every enforcer. They'll need years to rebuild if they can rebuild at all. Casualties? 0. Not a shot fired. Clean as it gets. You manipulated them into consolidating their entire operation for you. That's either brilliant or ethically questionable. Probably both. Marcus smiles. I prefer psychologically persuasive. The director wants a full briefing by Monday. Prepare for media attention. This is going to be national news. I'll handle it. The call ends. Marcus looks around the warehouse. Federal agents are still processing evidence, photographing vehicles, cataloging weapons. The operation has been a complete success by every measurable standard. So why does he feel hollow? Jennifer Park approaches, tablet in hand. Boss, we've identified a problem. What kind of problem? Miguel Reyes made 2 phone calls tonight that we didn't monitor. One to his cousin in Los Angeles, a veteran shot caller named Roberto Reyes. That call might have tipped them off to federal involvement. The LA cell is going dark. No communications in the past hour. Marcus's stomach tightens. How did we miss those calls? He used a burner phone we didn't know he had. Probably kept it as insurance against exactly this kind of scenario. What's the LA cell capable of? 15 active members. Less sophisticated than the Atlanta operation, but more violent. Roberto Reyes has 17 bodies on his record. If he thinks his cousin was captured in a federal trap, he might retaliate. Against who? Jennifer hesitates. Against the people he thinks betrayed Miguel. Antonio Ruiz is in witness protection, so he's safe. But Antonio has family, a sister in Riverside, 2 cousins in San Diego. Marcus curses quietly. This is the problem with operations this complex. You control 99 variables, but the 100th one can still kill innocent people. Get on the phone with the LA field office. I want protection details on every family member of every cooperating witness associated with this case. I want it done within the hour. Already in progress, but Marcus, there's something else. Miguel's phone call to Roberto might have mentioned you by name. Marcus looks at her sharply. How would he know my name? We've kept operational leadership classified. Antonio Ruiz knew your name. If he mentioned it during debriefings with MS-13 leadership before we flipped him, Miguel would have heard it. And if Miguel mentioned it to Roberto during that phone call, the implication hangs in the air. Marcus has been hunting MS-13 for 8 months. If MS-13 decides to hunt him back, they have resources, connections, and a transnational network. He's been threatened before. It comes with the job. But having his name specifically identified as the architect of this operation changes the threat calculation. Security protocols, Marcus says. Implement level 3 immediately. For me, for you, for everyone on this operation. No public statements using real names. All media briefings go through official channels with identity protection. Done. But Marcus knows it's not enough. MS-13 isn't just a gang. It's a transnational criminal organization with roots in El Salvador, operations in 13 countries, and a reputation for extraordinary violence. If they want revenge, they'll find a way. The question is whether they consider Marcus important enough to risk resources pursuing. At 4:23 a.m., as the first light of dawn begins to break over Atlanta's skyline, Marcus stands outside the warehouse and calls his ex-wife, Catherine. The phone rings 4 times before she answers, voice thick with sleep. Marcus? It's 4:30 in the morning. I know, I'm sorry. I needed to hear your voice. There's a pause. Catherine knows him well enough to recognize when something's wrong. What happened? Nothing. Everything. We just completed the largest MS-13 takedown in regional history. 127 arrests. Not a shot fired. Complete success. Then why do you sound like someone died? Marcus looks at the warehouse. At the federal agents still processing evidence. At the 45 seized vehicles that represent years of MS-13 investment. Because I realized something tonight. I've spent 20 years dismantling criminal organizations by getting into their heads, by manipulating them into destroying themselves. And I'm very good at it. But every time I do this, I become a little more like them. A little more willing to deceive, to manipulate, to treat people like chess pieces. And I'm not sure where the line is anymore between a good agent and just another predator who happens to wear a badge. Catherine is quiet for a long moment. Marcus, you saved lives tonight. You took dangerous people off the streets without anyone getting hurt. That's not predatory. That's brilliant. I manipulated 127 people into driving to their own arrest. I used their organizational structure, their loyalty to each other, their fear of rivals. I weaponized all of it. And now there's a real possibility they're going to come after me, after my team, after the families of witnesses. I didn't just stop their operation, I started a war. You've been in wars before. Not like this. Not where I'm the specific target. Another pause. Then Catherine says something that cuts through everything. You called me at 4:30 in the morning. Not your partner. Not your team. Me. Your ex-wife who you haven't spoken to in 8 months. Why? Marcus doesn't have a good answer. I don't know. Yes, you do. You're scared. Not of MS-13. Not of retaliation. You're scared that you've become so good at understanding criminals that you can't understand normal people anymore. You're scared that your brilliance at manipulation has cost you the ability to have genuine human connections. And you're right to be scared, Marcus. Because that is happening to you. It's been happening for years, but here's the thing. You're still capable of recognizing it. That means you're not lost yet. Marcus feels something in his chest tighten. I don't know how to be different. Then maybe it's time to stop trying to be brilliant and start trying to be human. Go home. Sleep. Take a day off. Remember what it feels like to exist without strategizing every interaction. I can't. We're just getting started on prosecutions. Marcus, go home. The line goes dead. Marcus stands in the pre-dawn light, holding his phone, feeling more alone than he's felt in years. He's just executed the most successful operation of his career. He should feel triumphant. Instead, he feels hollow. Catherine's right. He's been brilliant, but brilliance has costs. Stop here for a second. Marcus just orchestrated a flawless takedown. No casualties. Complete success by every measurable standard. But success in law enforcement isn't just about arrests and seizures. It's about the psychological cost of the methods you use to achieve them. Marcus manipulated 127 people into destroying their own organization. Is that justice, or is it just another form of violence dressed in a suit and badge? There's no easy answer. What would you do in his position? Would you use psychological manipulation if it saved lives? Or would you stick to traditional methods even if they were more dangerous? Think about it. Comment below. Let's have a real conversation about where the line is between effective law enforcement and becoming what you're fighting against. The first move. At 6:15 a.m., 3 hours after the takedown, Marcus sits in his office at the DEA's Atlanta field office. He hasn't slept. His desk is covered with preliminary reports, asset inventories, and legal documents. Jennifer Park enters with fresh coffee and a concerned expression. Boss, we have a situation. Marcus looks up. What kind of situation? Miguel Reyes wants to talk. Specifically, he wants to talk to you. He's refusing to speak with anyone else. Says he has information about MS-13's international operations that could be valuable, but he'll only discuss it with the person who outsmarted him. Marcus leans back in his chair. This is either genuine cooperation or a psychological game. With someone as sophisticated as Miguel, it's hard to tell. When? He's in holding cell 3. We can set up an interview room whenever you're ready. Marcus stands, grabbing his coffee. Let's do it now, before his lawyer arrives and shuts down communication. The interview room is standard federal design. Gray walls, metal table, uncomfortable chairs, camera in the corner, recording everything. Miguel sits with his hands cuffed in front of him, looking exhausted but alert. When Marcus enters, Miguel's eyes track him with sharp intelligence. Marcus sits across the table. Mr. Reyes, I'm told you want to talk. I want to understand, Miguel says. 8 months. You manipulated every decision I made. How? Are you asking for operational details because I'm not going to give you those? I'm asking how you knew which psychological buttons to push. What did you see in me that I didn't see in myself? Marcus studies Miguel for a long moment. This is an unusual conversation for an interrogation. Most suspects either lawyer up immediately or try to negotiate deals. Miguel seems genuinely interested in the mechanics of his own defeat. That's either exceptional self-awareness or exceptional manipulation. You're a smart man, Marcus says carefully. Smart enough to rise through MS-13's ranks in an organization that doesn't promote intelligence. It promotes ruthlessness. That created a contradiction in you. You're strategic in a culture that values immediate violence. You think long-term in an organization focused on short-term survival. So when we planted intelligence suggesting your operation was vulnerable to rival cartels, you didn't respond with violence. You responded with strategic consolidation. That's what I was counting on. Miguel nods slowly. You used my intelligence against me. I used your desire to be the smartest person in the room. Every leader has that desire. It makes them predictable. Is that what you are? The smartest person in the room? No, Marcus says honestly. I'm the most patient person in the room. Intelligence is overrated. Patience wins wars. Miguel smiles, but there's no humor in it. My cousin Roberto called me 3 hours ago. The phone call was monitored. I assume you know this. He's not patient. He's not strategic. He's the opposite of me. Violence first, questions later. And he thinks I was betrayed by people in this organization. Antonio Ruiz is in witness protection. His family is under protection detail as of 2 hours ago. Roberto can't reach them. You don't understand MS-13 psychology the way you think you do, Miguel says quietly. Roberto doesn't care about Antonio's family, he cares about the organization's reputation. You embarrassed us. You manipulated us into our own capture. That can't go unanswered. Not because of personal revenge, because of organizational credibility. If MS-13 looks weak, we lose standing with other gangs, with cartels, with everyone we deal with. Roberto will retaliate not to hurt you specifically, but to show the world that MS-13 can't be manipulated without consequences. Marcus feels ice in his stomach. This is different from typical threats. This is strategic analysis. What kind of retaliation? I don't know specifics, but I know Roberto's thinking. He'll target something visible, something that makes national news, something that demonstrates MS-13's reach and capability even after a major law enforcement victory. He'll want to turn your success into our opportunity to show strength. Why are you telling me this? Miguel looks at Marcus directly. Because I'm tired. 15 years in MS-13. I've seen enough violence, caused enough violence. I helped build this Southeast operation because I thought I was smart enough to run a criminal organization without the bloodshed. But blood always comes eventually. That 15-year-old girl in Decatur, Alicia Martinez. I didn't order that. I didn't approve it. But I created the structure that made it possible. That's on me. And I'm done carrying that weight. You're offering to cooperate? I'm offering to give you everything. Names, locations, financial networks, international connections, MS-13's entire operational structure. In exchange, I want witness protection. I want out. Completely. Marcus considers this carefully. Miguel's cooperation could be invaluable, but it also could be a way to feed false information, to misdirect resources, to create opportunities for retaliation. Trust is a luxury Marcus can't afford. I'll need verification. Everything you tell me, we verify independently before acting on it. If you lie even once, the deal is off and you're looking at maximum sentences on every charge. Understood. And I need something right now. Before we discuss terms, I need you to call Roberto. Tell him to stand down. Tell him retaliation will only make things worse for everyone. Miguel shakes his head. He won't listen to me. I'm captured. That makes me compromised in his eyes. Anything I say now is assumed to be under federal pressure. Try anyway. Miguel looks at Marcus for a long moment. Then he nods. Get me a phone. The battle. The phone call happens at 7:42 a.m. with federal agents monitoring and recording every word. Miguel's hands are still cuffed, so an agent holds the phone to his ear. The line rings 6 times before Roberto answers. His voice is harsh, alert despite the early hour in California. Miguel, you're alive. I'm in federal custody. DEA, FBI, probably CIA for all I know. They got the whole Southeast operation. Everyone, every vehicle, everything. Silence on the other end. Then, how? They manipulated us. For 8 months. Every decision we made was influenced by intelligence they planted. We walked into a trap thinking we were executing a strategic withdrawal. Who's the agent in charge? Miguel glances at Marcus. This is the moment. Does he give up Marcus's name? Does he protect him? The choice defines everything that comes next. His name is Whitfield. DEA Special Agent Marcus Whitfield. And Roberto, listen to me carefully. He's smarter than us. He's more patient than us. And if you retaliate, he'll use that retaliation to justify escalating federal attention on every MS-13 cell in the country. This is over. We lost. Accept it. We don't lose. Roberto says quietly. We adapt. Adaptation isn't retaliation. Adaptation is survival. Retaliation is suicide. You sound like a federal informant already. I sound like someone who understands tactical reality. You want to honor the organization? Keep it alive. Don't throw away lives on symbolic revenge. Roberto's voice becomes cold. You're compromised. Everything you say now means nothing. But I'll remember Agent Whitfield's name, and he'll remember ours. The line goes dead. Miguel looks at Marcus. I tried. Marcus nods slowly. I appreciate it. But you know what this means? Yes, Roberto's going to retaliate, and he's going to make it personal. Marcus stands. Then we need to prepare. Everything you know about Roberto's capabilities, his resources, his methodology, I need it all. Right now. For the next 4 hours, Miguel talks. He describes Roberto's network in California, his connections to MS-13 cells in Texas and Arizona, his relationships with Mexican cartel contacts, his weapons access, and his history of violence. Roberto Reyes has been with MS-13 for 30 years. He's survived 3 gang wars, 2 federal investigations, and countless rival assassinations. He's smart, ruthless, and absolutely committed to MS-13's reputation. Roberto sees violence as communication, Miguel explains. Every action sends a message. When he retaliates, it won't be random. It'll be calculated to demonstrate specific capabilities. He'll want to show that MS-13 can reach federal agents, can strike at protected targets, can operate with precision even under pressure. What's his most likely target? Miguel hesitates. You? Me specifically? You're the symbol of this defeat. Taking you out, or even making you look vulnerable, restores organizational credibility. But Roberto's too smart for direct confrontation. He won't come at you head-on. He'll find pressure points, family, friends, people you care about. He'll make you hurt personally before he considers physical action. Marcus thinks about Catherine, about Jennifer Park and his team, about Robert Chen, whose warehouse became ground zero for this operation. All potential targets, all vulnerabilities Roberto could exploit. How long before he moves? Days, maybe a week. Roberto doesn't rush, but he doesn't wait either. Momentum matters. The longer he takes, the more it looks like weakness. Marcus makes a decision. You're going into protective custody immediately. Not standard holding, actual witness protection protocols starting now. You don't talk to anyone except me and designated federal handlers. Your cooperation stays classified. If Roberto thinks you're helping us, he might escalate. He already thinks I'm helping you. That phone call confirmed it. Then we need to move faster than he can react. At 2:17 p.m., 9 hours after the initial takedown, Marcus briefs his entire team on the threat assessment. 79 federal agents gather in a conference room at the DEA's Atlanta field office. Marcus stands at the front, exhausted but focused. Operation Nightfall was a complete tactical success, but it's created a strategic problem. MS-13's Los Angeles cell, led by Roberto Reyes, is planning retaliation. We don't know when, where, or how, but we know it's coming. Effective immediately, all personnel associated with this operation are under security protocols. No public identification, no solo travel. Constant awareness of surroundings. Report anything suspicious immediately. Jennifer Park raises her hand. What about witness families? Antonio Ruiz has 17 family members across 4 states. Already in protective custody or under surveillance. No one gets touched. Another agent, a young FBI analyst named David Torres, asks, what about civilians? Robert Chen, the warehouse owner. Is he at risk? Marcus hadn't fully considered this angle. Robert Chen is a civilian caught in the crossfire of a federal operation. If Roberto wants to send a message about federal overreach, targeting a civilian who cooperated with authorities would be symbolically powerful. Get a detail on Chen, 24-hour protection. I'll brief him personally. At 4:30 p.m., Marcus drives to Chen Logistics in southwest Atlanta. Robert is in his office trying to work but clearly distracted. When Marcus enters, Robert looks up with wary eyes. Agent Whitfield, what now? Mr. Chen, we have credible intelligence suggesting MS-13 might retaliate against people involved in last night's operation. That includes you. Robert's face pales. They're coming after me? Why? I didn't even know they were using my warehouse. You're a symbol. Your cooperation, unknowing as it was, represents civilian involvement in law enforcement success. Targeting you would send a message. What kind of message? That nowhere is safe. That federal operations create civilian casualties. That cooperation with law enforcement, even unintentional, has consequences. Robert stands, pacing his small office. I served 27 years in the Army. I've been shot at by insurgents in Iraq. I've survived IED explosions in Afghanistan. And now I'm being threatened by a gang because I rented warehouse space to what I thought was a legitimate company. This is insane. Yes, it is. Which is why we're putting a protection detail on you. 2 agents, 24 hours until we neutralize the threat. How long will that take? Marcus doesn't have a good answer. As long as it takes. Robert sits back down heavily. I just wanted to run a trucking company. Serve my country, retire, run a small business. That was the plan. And now, I'm in the middle of a gang war. You're not in the middle of anything. We are. You're just unfortunately adjacent. That's a hell of a distinction when people are trying to kill you. Marcus can't argue with that. He leaves 2 FBI agents outside Chen Logistics with instructions to maintain visibility but avoid interfering with business operations. Robert needs to feel protected, not imprisoned. It's a delicate balance. At 6:45 p.m., 15 hours after the initial takedown, Marcus finally goes home. His townhouse in Buckhead is modest, meticulously clean and deeply impersonal. No photos, no decorations, just furniture, books, and case files. He locks the door, sets the security system, and pours himself 2 fingers of bourbon. He doesn't usually drink, but tonight feels exceptional. His phone rings. Unknown number. Marcus hesitates, then answers. Whitfield. Agent Whitfield. The voice is calm, measured, with a slight accent that suggests Central American origin. My name is Roberto Reyes. I believe you've heard of me. Marcus's blood goes cold. How did you get this number? Does it matter? I'm calling to have a conversation, professional to professional. You impressed me with your operation in Atlanta. Very sophisticated, very thorough. You manipulated my cousin into destroying his own network. That takes intelligence and patience. I respect both. If this is a threat, it's not a threat. It's an acknowledgement. You won MS-13 Southeast operations. That's a significant victory. But victories have costs, Agent Whitfield. Your people, your witnesses, your civilians who got caught in the machinery. All of them are now part of a larger conversation between your organization and mine. MS-13 isn't an organization, it's a criminal gang. Roberto laughs softly. We're a transnational criminal organization operating in 13 countries with approximately 70,000 members worldwide. We have structure, hierarchy, and strategic objectives. The only difference between us and a corporation is legality. And sometimes, not even that. What do you want, Roberto? I want you to understand something. This isn't personal. You're just doing your job. I'm doing mine. But jobs have consequences. You hurt my organization. I need to demonstrate that hurting us comes with costs. It's not revenge. It's communication. Business communication. If you touch anyone associated with this operation, you'll what? Arrest more of us? Seize more vehicles? Manipulate more people into their own capture? You're very good at your job, Agent Whitfield, but you can't protect everyone, and you can't be patient forever. Eventually, you'll make a mistake. When you do, we'll be watching. The line goes dead. Marcus sits in his quiet townhouse, bourbon untouched, phone still pressed to his ear. Roberto Reyes just demonstrated capability. He has Marcus's personal cell phone number. That's not supposed to be possible. It's classified, protected, and yet Roberto has it. Marcus sets down the phone and makes a call to Jennifer Park. We have a problem. Roberto Reyes just called my personal cell. Run a full security audit on all communication systems. Find the leak, now. Marcus, how is that even possible? Your number is protected under federal protocols. I don't know, but he has it, which means either we have a compromised system or we have a compromised person. Find out which. Jennifer's voice becomes tight. If we have an informant inside the operation, then everyone's at risk. Start with communication logs. Who had access to my contact information in the past 48 hours? Cross-reference with anyone who might have MS-13 connections, debts, vulnerabilities. I want a full report by morning. You should go to a safe house. I'm not running from a phone call. Marcus, this isn't about ego. If they have your number, they might have your address. You're vulnerable. Marcus looks around his empty townhouse. She's right. Staying here is tactically stupid. Fine. Arrange a safe house. But I'm not leaving until we secure all personnel and witnesses. My safety comes last. That's not how protection protocols work. That's how leadership works. Get the audit started, I'll check in hourly. He ends the call and sits in silence for a long moment. Roberto's voice echoes in his mind. You can't protect everyone. It's true. Marcus has 79 federal agents, 17 witness families, multiple civilian contacts, and limited resources. Roberto only needs one successful strike to make his point. The mathematics of protection versus attack always favor the attacker. Marcus's phone rings again. This time it's a number he recognizes, Catherine. He answers immediately. Kat, are you okay? I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be? Her voice is confused, concerned. Marcus, what's happening? 2 FBI agents just showed up at my apartment saying I need protection. They won't tell me why. Marcus closes his eyes. The MS-13 operation I told you about this morning. There's been a complication. Their Los Angeles leadership is threatening retaliation. We're putting protection on anyone who might be a target. I'm your ex-wife. We haven't spoken in 8 months until this morning. Why would I be a target? Because I called you. 4:30 this morning. That call might have been monitored. If they're tracking my communication patterns, they know you're important to me. There's a long pause. Marcus, I have a life. I have a job. I can't have FBI agents following me around because you're having professional problems. This isn't professional problems. This is a transnational criminal organization with a history of extreme violence. Roberto Reyes has 17 confirmed murders. He just called my personal cell phone, a number that's supposed to be classified. If he can get that, he can get your address, your work schedule, everything. Please, just let the agent stay with you for a few days. Until we neutralize the threat. Another pause. Then Catherine says something that cuts deep. This is what I meant this morning. You turn everything into a chess game. Even protecting people becomes a tactical problem. Have you considered that maybe, just maybe, you're overreacting because you're exhausted and paranoid after an intense operation? He called me, Kat. Roberto Reyes personally called my cell phone and threatened everyone associated with this operation. That's not paranoia. That's reality. Fine. The agents can stay. But Marcus, after this is over, you need to talk to someone. Not me, a professional. Because this job is eating you alive. The line goes dead. Marcus sits in his empty townhouse and realizes she's right. About everything. He's exhausted, paranoid, turning protection into a tactical problem. But he's also right about the threat. Both things can be true simultaneously. That's the burden of his work, being right about dangers while being wrong about how to live with them. At 8:30 p.m., Marcus receives a call from Jennifer Park. Boss, we found the leak. Sort of. What does sort of mean? Your personal cell number wasn't leaked. It was reconstructed. MS-13 has access to sophisticated data aggregation tools, probably through connections with Eastern European cybercriminal networks. They pulled together fragments of information from social media, public records, data breaches, and triangulated your number. It's not a mole. It's just good old-fashioned intelligence work. Marcus feels simultaneous relief and frustration. Not a mole, that's good. But the fact that MS-13 has that level of technical capability is concerning. What else can they reconstruct? Potentially anything that exists in digital form. Addresses, financial records, family connections, travel patterns. If it's been digitized somewhere, they can probably find it. So everyone associated with this operation is vulnerable. Everyone is always vulnerable, Marcus. We just pretend otherwise for psychological comfort. It's a bleak assessment, but accurate. Marcus makes another decision. Pull all non-essential personnel from protection duty. Focus resources on high-value targets. Witnesses, their immediate families, and any civilians directly involved. Everyone else goes to heightened awareness protocols, but no dedicated protection. We don't have the resources for comprehensive coverage. That includes you. That especially includes me. I'm not a civilian, I'm the intended target. If Roberto comes after me, I want him to have the opportunity. Better me than someone who can't defend themselves. That's tactically insane. That's leadership. You draw fire away from your people. Jennifer is quiet for a moment. You know what Catherine said is right. You need to talk to someone when this is over. When this is over, I'll sleep for 3 days. That's therapy enough. That's not how therapy works. Marcus ends the call before the conversation can continue. He knows they're right. Catherine, Jennifer, probably everyone who knows him professionally. But knowing you need help and accepting help are different things. Right now, he needs to focus on keeping people alive. Everything else can wait. At 11:47 p.m., 19 hours after the initial takedown, Marcus is reviewing security footage from the warehouse operation when his phone buzzes with a text message. Unknown number. The message is simple. Check the news. Marcus opens a news app on his tablet. The top story makes his blood freeze. Explosion at Riverside, California apartment complex. 3 dead, 7 injured. Authorities investigating possible gang violence. He clicks the article. The apartment complex is in a neighborhood known for MS-13 activity. The 3 dead haven't been officially identified pending family notification, but preliminary reports suggest they're related to a federal witness in a recent DEA operation. Marcus calls Jennifer immediately. Tell me Antonio Ruiz's sister wasn't in that Riverside apartment. Jennifer's voice is strained. I'm pulling up witness protection logs now, hold on. A pause that feels eternal. Marcus, she was supposed to be in protective custody. She refused. Said she didn't want to abandon her life because of her brother's decisions. We had surveillance on her apartment, but no physical protection detail. The explosion happened at 8:15 p.m. Pacific time. Surveillance team reported no suspicious activity in the hours leading up to it. Because the explosives were probably planted days ago. Roberto knew we'd put protection on witness families after the takedown. He planted the devices before we even moved. That means he knew the operation was coming. Or he's been preparing for federal retaliation for months. Either way, he just demonstrated capability. 3 people are dead because of our operation. 3 people are dead because MS-13 is a violent criminal organization. That's not on us. Tell that to their families. Marcus hangs up and sits in the darkness of his townhouse. This is the cost of victory. He dismantled MS-13's Southeast operations, 127 arrests, complete tactical success. And in response, Roberto Reyes killed 3 people in California to send a message. You can't protect everyone. The worst part is that Roberto's right. Act 3. The aftermath, immediate aftermath. At 7:30 a.m. on Friday, November 7th, exactly 30 hours after Operation Nightfall began, Marcus stands in a conference room at the DEA's Atlanta field office with grim-faced federal agents from multiple agencies. The mood is funeral dark. 3 bodies in California. Antonio Ruiz's sister Maria, age 34, her husband Carlos, age 37, and their neighbor, an innocent 67-year-old retiree named Dorothy Williams, who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. FBI Assistant Director Catherine Morrison addresses the room via video conference from Washington. What happened in Riverside is a tragedy, but it's not our fault. MS-13 killed those people, not us. Our job now is to prevent additional casualties and bring Roberto Reyes into custody. Marcus speaks, his voice rough from lack of sleep. With respect, Assistant Director, we created the conditions that led to those deaths. Roberto didn't target random civilians. He targeted the sister of a cooperating witness because our operation forced him to demonstrate organizational strength. We played chess with human lives and we lost that round. Agent Whitfield, I understand you're tired and emotionally invested, but we need tactical clarity, not philosophical guilt. Tactical clarity is understanding that every action creates reactions. Roberto's retaliation isn't finished. The Riverside bombing was message 1. We can reach witnesses. Message 2 is coming, probably aimed at law enforcement directly. Catherine leans forward on the screen. What's your assessment of his next move? Marcus has been thinking about this all night. Roberto's strategic objective is restoring MS-13's reputation. He's already demonstrated that witness protection isn't absolute. Next, he needs to show that federal agents aren't untouchable either. But killing a federal agent brings overwhelming retaliation. Roberto's smart enough to know that. So he'll find a middle ground. Something that hurts us professionally or personally without crossing the line into cop killing. Jennifer Park speaks up. What about operational infrastructure? He could target our facilities, our vehicles, our communication systems. Possible, but infrastructure is replaceable. Roberto wants psychological impact. He wants us to feel vulnerable the way MS-13 felt vulnerable when we dismantled their Southeast operations. An ATF agent named Sarah Chen raises her hand. What if he goes after civilian contractors, informants who aren't in witness protection, People on the periphery who helped the operation. Marcus's stomach drops. Robert Chen, the warehouse owner. Visible civilian involvement. Perfect symbolic target. Get Chen on the phone. Now. Jennifer dials while the room waits in tense silence. The call rings. And rings and rings. Voicemail. Jennifer tries Chen Logistics' office number. Same result. She looks at Marcus with frightened eyes. The protection detail was supposed to check in every 2 hours. Last check-in was 5:47 a.m. It's now 7:33. Marcus is already moving, grabbing his jacket and weapon. All available units converge on Chen Logistics in southwest Atlanta. Possible hostage situation or worse. I want tactical teams, negotiators, and medical on standby. Move now. 12 vehicles race through Atlanta's morning traffic, sirens blaring. Marcus rides in the lead SUV with Jennifer driving and 2 FBI tactical agents in the back. His mind runs through scenarios. Best case, the protection detail fell asleep or had communication issues. Worst case, Roberto Reyes has already sent his second message. They arrive at Chen Logistics at 7:51 a.m. The parking lot is quiet. Too quiet. Robert's pickup truck is in its usual spot. The protection detail's unmarked federal vehicle is parked near the entrance. But there's no movement, no signs of life. Marcus and the tactical team approach with weapons drawn. The federal vehicle's windows are tinted, but as they get closer, Marcus sees dark stains on the driver's side window. Blood. He signals the team to surround the vehicle while he approaches the driver's door. Inside, both FBI agents are slumped in their seats. Dead. Each with a single gunshot wound to the head. Professional execution. Suppressed weapons, close range. Probably while they were drowsy during the early morning hours. Marcus checks their pulses anyway, knowing it's futile. Both have been dead for at least 2 hours based on body temperature. Clear the building, Marcus orders. Robert Chen is either inside or already taken. The tactical team breaches Chen Logistics' front entrance. They move through the office with practiced efficiency, clearing each room. Marcus follows, dreading what they'll find. The office is empty. Robert's desk shows signs of recent activity. Computer still on, coffee cup half full and still warm. But no Robert. They find him in the warehouse. He's cable tied to a support column, unconscious but breathing. Blood trickles from a head wound, but it doesn't look fatal. A medic team rushes in while Marcus cuts the cable ties. Robert stirs, groaning. "Mr. Chen, can you hear me? It's Agent Whitfield. You're safe now." Robert's eyes flutter open, unfocused and confused. They came through the roof, early morning. I was in the office. Heard suppressed gunshots. Went to check, they were waiting. How many? 3, maybe 4. Wearing masks, professional, military-style operation. They said to give you a message. Marcus leans closer. What message? Robert's voice is weak but clear. They said, "Myum, we can reach anyone, anytime. Tell Agent Whitfield that patience works both ways. We'll wait for the perfect moment, and when it comes, he'll know." The medics take over, checking Robert's vitals and preparing him for transport to the hospital. Marcus steps back, feeling cold fury building in his chest. Roberto Reyes just killed 2 federal agents and assaulted a civilian to deliver a personal message. This isn't about organizational reputation anymore. This is personal. Investigation. The FBI's evidence response team processes Chen Logistics for 6 hours. They find shell casings from 9mm rounds, common and virtually untraceable. They find entry points on the warehouse roof where the assault team cut through security fencing. They find tire tracks from vehicles that were likely stolen and already ditched. And they find security footage that shows absolutely nothing. The cameras were disabled remotely before the team arrived. At 2:15 p.m., Marcus sits in a hospital room with Robert Chen, who has a concussion and 17 stitches but will recover fully. Robert looks at Marcus with hollow eyes. 2 men are dead because of me. 2 men are dead because MS-13 killed them. You didn't pull the trigger. I rented warehouse space to criminals. That started this whole thing. You rented space to what you believed was a legitimate company. You're a victim, Mr. Chen, not a perpetrator. Robert shakes his head slowly. I've been in combat. I've seen people die. But this is different. This is personal. They came to my business, the business I built with my retirement, my life savings, and they murdered federal agents to send you a message. How is that not on both of us? Marcus doesn't have a good answer. Because Robert's partially right. Marcus's operation created the circumstances that led to this violence. His tactical success birthed strategic consequences. We're going to get the people who did this. Roberto Reyes will face justice. Justice. Robert laughs bitterly. 2 dead agents, 3 dead people in California. Me with a concussion and probably PTSD for the rest of my life. What does justice even look like against that scoreboard? Marcus leaves the hospital room without answering because he doesn't know. He spent 20 years in law enforcement believing that arrests and prosecutions equal justice. But standing in that hospital room, looking at a traumatized veteran who did nothing wrong except rent warehouse space, Marcus isn't sure justice exists in any meaningful sense. There's only action and consequence, repeating endlessly. At 4:30 p.m., Marcus receives a call from Miguel Reyes in witness protection. Miguel's voice is shaken. I heard about California, about your agents in Atlanta. I'm sorry. Your cousin did this. I know, and I'm telling you, he's not done. Roberto doesn't do half measures. He'll escalate until you're forced to respond disproportionately. Then he'll use your overreaction to recruit, to fundraise, to build support. He's turning your tactical victory into his strategic opportunity. How do I stop him? You don't. Not through traditional law enforcement. Roberto's been evading authorities for 30 years. He knows how you think. He's studied federal procedures. Every move you make, he's already planned 3 moves ahead. Then what do I do? Miguel is quiet for a long moment. You do what he doesn't expect. You stop playing his game. You stop reacting to his provocations. You accept losses without escalating. You show patience that outlasts his need for immediate validation. You become boring. People are dead. I can't just ignore that. You investigate, of course. You pursue leads. But you don't give him the emotional reaction he wants. You don't make it personal. The moment you make it personal, he wins. Because personal means emotional, and emotional means mistakes. Marcus knows Miguel is right. But knowing and doing are different things. I'll consider it. Agent Whitfield, Marcus. My cousin is brilliant at psychological warfare. Don't let him inside your head. That's where he does his best work. The call ends. Marcus sits in his office, exhausted beyond measure, and makes a decision. He calls Catherine Morrison in Washington. I need to brief you on a strategic shift in how we're handling MS-13 retaliation. Deeper context. Over the next 72 hours, federal authorities piece together Roberto Reyes's network with information provided by Miguel and other cooperating witnesses. Roberto operates through a cell of 15 core members in Los Angeles, with connections to MS-13 factions in Phoenix, Houston, and El Salvador. His annual revenue from drug trafficking, weapons sales, and extortion is estimated at $8.3 million. He has relationships with 2 Mexican cartels and a Colombian supplier network. But what makes Roberto truly dangerous isn't his criminal infrastructure. It's his strategic thinking. FBI behavioral analysts review his history and find a pattern. Roberto doesn't fight wars he can't win. When federal pressure increases, he adapts. When rivals threaten his territory, he negotiates. When violence serves his interests, he's ruthless. When patience serves better, he waits. The Riverside bombing and the Atlanta assault weren't random acts of revenge. They were calculated messages designed to accomplish specific objectives: demonstrate MS-13's reach, demoralize federal agents, and signal to other criminal organizations that MS-13 can't be dismantled without cost. Marcus spends those 72 hours coordinating with 12 federal agencies, state law enforcement, and international partners. The manhunt for Roberto Reyes becomes the DEA's top priority, but Roberto has disappeared. No communications, no movements, complete silence. He's activated protocols designed for exactly this scenario, going dark until federal attention shifts elsewhere. On Monday, November 10th, Marcus holds a press conference. He stands at a podium with the FBI director, the DEA administrator, and Georgia's governor. Cameras flash. Reporters call out questions. Marcus delivers a statement that's been carefully crafted to deny Roberto the emotional reaction he's seeking. On November 6th, federal and state law enforcement conducted Operation Nightfall, resulting in the arrest of 127 MS-13 members and the seizure of significant criminal assets. This operation represents years of investigative work and multi-agency coordination. In response to this operation, MS-13 conducted retaliatory attacks resulting in 5 deaths, including 2 federal agents. These attacks demonstrate the criminal ruthlessness we're fighting against. But they don't change our mission. We will continue pursuing MS-13 leadership with patience, precision, and professionalism. To Roberto Reyes and anyone involved in these attacks, justice doesn't require speed. It requires certainty. And we are certain. It's only a matter of time. No anger, no threats, no emotional response. Just professional determination. Marcus watches news coverage afterward and sees that the message landed exactly as intended. Calm, competent, implacable authority. Roberto Reyes doesn't respond. No messages. No further attacks. Nothing. The silence is its own form of communication. Your move. Long-term consequences. 6 weeks later, on December 18th, federal agents arrest Roberto Reyes in Tucson, Arizona. He's staying in a modest apartment under a false identity, having grown careless after weeks without federal pressure. The arrest is quiet, professional, and entirely anticlimactic. No shootout, no chase. Just a knock on the door and handcuffs. Roberto is extradited to Georgia to face federal charges including the murder of 2 FBI agents, conspiracy, racketeering, and dozens of other counts. His trial is scheduled for April 2026. Legal analysts predict he'll receive life without parole. Miguel Reyes testifies in multiple trials, helping prosecutors dismantle MS-13 cells across the Southeast. He's relocated through witness protection to an undisclosed location where he lives under a new identity. In one of his final conversations with Marcus, Miguel says, "I spent 15 years building a criminal empire. It took you 8 months to destroy it. That ratio tells you everything you need to know about the futility of this life." Robert Chen recovers physically but closes Chen Logistics 6 months after the attack. He sells the property and moves to Vermont, where he lives quietly with family. In a letter to Marcus, he writes, "I don't blame you, but I can't separate my business from what happened there. Every time I walk into that warehouse, I see 2 dead agents, so I'm walking away. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe it makes me human. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore." The 2 FBI agents killed in the line of duty, Special Agents Michael Torres and Lisa Franklin, are honored with memorials, posthumous commendations, and their names added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington. Marcus attends both funerals. He sits in the back, listening to families describe people whose lives ended because they were assigned to protect a civilian caught in the machinery of an operation Marcus designed. Reflection and analysis. 8 months after Operation Nightfall, Marcus Whitfield sits in a therapist's office in Atlanta. It took 6 months of insistence from Catherine Morrison, Jennifer Park, and Catherine before he agreed to go. The therapist, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, a specialist in law enforcement trauma, asks him a simple question. "Do you believe the operation was worth the cost?" Marcus thinks for a long time. "We arrested 127 MS-13 members. We dismantled their Southeast infrastructure. We disrupted trafficking routes that were bringing drugs, weapons, and violence into communities across 5 states. That's objectively successful. But 5 people are dead. 2 were federal agents doing their jobs. 3 were civilians. 1 was a witness's family member. 2 were collateral. Robert Chen's life is permanently changed. My team is traumatized. And I manipulated 127 people into their own capture using psychological warfare that might have crossed ethical lines. Do you believe you crossed ethical lines? I don't know. I told myself manipulation was better than violence. Outsmarting criminals meant fewer people got hurt. But 5 people are dead specifically because I outsmarted those criminals. So maybe violence delayed is just violence redistributed." Dr. Okonkwo nods. "The question isn't whether you made the right choice. The question is whether you can live with the choice you made." Marcus doesn't have an answer. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He continues working at the DEA. He continues building operations that dismantle criminal organizations. But something has changed. He's more cautious now, more aware of secondary consequences. more willing to accept imperfect tactical victories if they prevent strategic catastrophes. Catherine tells him during one of their occasional phone calls, "You're becoming human again, slowly. It's progress." Jennifer Park, now promoted to Assistant Special Agent in Charge, tells him, "You're still the best strategist in the DEA, but you're also the most haunted. Find balance before this job destroys what's left of you." Marcus is trying. It's harder than dismantling criminal empires, but he's trying. On the anniversary of Operation Nightfall, November 6, 2026, Marcus visits the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington. He finds the names Michael Torres, Lisa Franklin. He stands there for 20 minutes, not praying exactly, but acknowledging, remembering, carrying the weight. A voice behind him says, "You're Agent Whitfield." Marcus turns. A woman in her 60s, African American, dignified bearing. "I'm Dorothy Williams's sister. She was killed in the Riverside bombing. I wanted to meet you." Marcus's chest tightens. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry for your loss. Sorry doesn't bring her back, but I'm not here for apologies. I'm here because I've been following the trials, watching MS-13 members get convicted, seeing their operations dismantled, and I realized something. My sister died because evil people chose violence, not because you did your job. I spent a year being angry at you, at the DEA, at everyone except the people who actually planted that bomb. But anger directed at the wrong target is just misdirected grief. Your anger wouldn't have been wrong. My operation created the circumstances. No, Roberto Reyes created those circumstances. You just gave him an excuse to reveal what he already was. A murderer. My sister's death is tragedy, but it's not your fault." She pauses. "I came here to tell you that, because I imagine you carry a lot of weight, and some of it isn't yours to carry." She walks away before Marcus can respond. He stands at the memorial, surrounded by the names of fallen officers, and feels something shift. Not absolution exactly, but a fractional lightening of burden. Operation Nightfall was the largest MS-13 takedown in regional history. It was also a reminder that victory and tragedy aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes they're the same thing viewed from different angles. Marcus Whitfield returns to Atlanta that evening. He goes to his townhouse, pours coffee instead of bourbon, and opens case files for his next operation. Because the work continues. It always continues. The only choice is whether you continue with it or let it consume you completely. He's choosing to continue, carefully, thoughtfully, and with the knowledge that being smart isn't the same as being right. That's the lesson Operation Nightfall taught him. You can outthink your enemies and still lose what matters. Strategy without wisdom is just elaborate cruelty. And at the end of every operation, regardless of tactical success, you have to live with yourself. Marcus is learning how to do that, one day at a time.